Mitch.
Yes, sir.
But we'll just start with something simple. Tell me a little bit about your career. Specifically, what made you want to be an electrician?
Yeah. So, um, currently, I'm a journeyman electrician. Um, and so my whole family's pretty much electricians. My dad, my grandpa, most of my uncles have all been electricians. My dad's been in it 50 years,
Well,
40, no, 40, 45 years, I think. Um, with a company that my grandpa started. Um, and so I grew up around the industry. And as I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, I had a bunch of weird, random jobs, and then I just decided. I ended up in maintenance at an old folks home, and uh, I actually met the employer that I work for now, and I decided, you know what, I know a lot about that field, and I know it's a very safe field, and I had just gotten married not too long before, and I decided I'm going to get after it. And 7 years later, here I am.
that's awesome. So, along with being an electrician, you're also one of the guys behind Ironhide USA.
hmm
What does Ironhide's mission mean to you?
So Ironhide's mission to just better men's mental health, um, especially in the trades. I've seen quite a few people, and absolutely myself included, that has rough, rough times, um, and it's all the people, especially the blue collar guys. It's all the people that you pass in the grocery store that are wearing high vis that are invisible. They're the brightest people out there, but you can't see them because they don't matter. Um, and growing up, I knew a lot of, oh, they're just a framer, they're just a plumber, they're just whatever. But now, especially now that I've been in the trades for a while, those guys are some of the coolest guys I've ever met, some of the hardest working guys, and have the craziest stories. And not a lot of people care. And um, there's been quite a few people on my crews that have had some rough lives that I've really enjoyed hearing their story and watching them get better. That kind of pushed me towards helping start Ironhide.
Those guys in the trades wear toughness like a badge, you know. I want to get your thoughts, what you had thought before your diagnosis,
hmm
what you thought toughness was, or what toughness meant to you.
Um, like it's kind of silly things like when you're outside working, setting panels and pulling wire, and it's 7 degrees outside, and you see the guys not wearing gloves. Um, and they're not all super bundled up in big puffy coats, or they're out there in 110-degree weather, doing roofing. Like those guys, I think are just stellar human beings that nothing can phase them. Um, a lot of blue collar guys are physically fit and not necessarily like bodybuilder, but like I see guys setting 200-pound panels with just him and another guy, and uh, yeah, I think just kind of balls to the walls, tough. Nothing gets to him. Nothing matters.
It's very stoic, very physically tough.
Absolutely.
Um, we'll just keep that in mind. But So that was before your diagnosis, and
Hmm.
life likes to throw curveballs at us. Yours came in the form of a cancer diagnosis.
Hmm.
Um, can you talk about that moment and how it hit you? Did it hit you? Just
Yeah. So um, I've been thinking a lot about uh, the moment I found out about my tumor. Uh, Recently, I've been chatting with a therapist, trying to work through a lot of stuff. Um, and as I was thinking about it, it it kind of is the essence of blue collar toughness, while knowing that those guys are still human, still people. I'm not trying to say like I'm tough about it and whatnot, or but so what happened was I had I was roping townhomes, and I was just feeling real crappy, just no energy, no nothing. And then I started coughing, and I coughed and coughed and coughed, and I was coughing up blood, like quite a bit of blood. And I decided, you know what, this is not good. So I went to the doctor. They took some X-rays, um, and then I remember it pretty vividly. We were out to lunch. Pretty sure we were celebrating some guy's birthday, so I decided on the company we're gonna buy everybody lunch to show appreciation to my guys and celebrate a birthday. But I got a phone call from my doctor, and I kind of went off into the corner. And we were at kind of a loud Costa Vida, and he told me, he said, "Hey, there's a spot on your X-ray, and there is it seems to be a mass or a tumor in your lung, specifically in your right lung." Um, and so I said, "Thank you." Um, and he set up a bunch of appointments for me after that for CTs and whatnot. And then I just kind of went back to lunch. Um, and then I told my guys, a lot of the guys that I'm really close to, we started just joking about it. We're just like, "Oh, I got a tumor," and just joking and playing it off like it was nothing. And then on the way home from lunch, I called my wife, and then that's where it hit me really hard, and I really broke down. I called my wife and I called my dad, and I lost it. I got to the job site, and I was just in full tears. And I told my PM, I said, "Hey, this is what happened. I'm going home. The rest of the guys got this. They don't need me here for this." Um, and I took 2 days to just kind of let it set in. Had a couple conversations with my bosses about what's going on, CEO and stuff, and just spent time with my wife.
um, I, you and I do things very. We lead very similar lives, especially career wise, and so I know that you're in. There's so many times where you're in control. You have control at work, and you have say, and you get to decide how things play out, even if you're reacting to something. Um, you know, but this isn't the type of thing you can uh, fix with your hands.
Right.
How does that shift come into play where you're in charge, you have authority at work, you can say what goes and what doesn't go? That's not the case in this situation.
Yeah. So that's the not so fun part about cancer is there's a lot of times, and especially with my type of cancer, there's no control over it, right? Like it's not hey, I can push hard and I can get the job done. I can make it work. Um, I can accomplish a task. Uh, and especially like with my type of cancer, it's resistant to chemo. There is no cure. There is no um, kind of getting rid of it except for surgery and removal. Um, but yeah, that's one of the topics that I've been thinking about a lot and talking about a lot is that loss of control in your life. Um, on the job site, I have final say on almost everything that goes. I control what guys do. I control um, what task is being done. And yeah, it was absolutely, you can do nothing about this. It's gonna happen. Um, so
What was the
yeah.
experience of just the whole surgery experience for you? That's a major surgery.
Yeah. So going back, I had a cancer called adenoid cystic carcinoma, which is cancer of your saliva glands. Um, and I can't remember the exact statistics, but it's a really rare cancer, and it normally presents in like your throat and in your mouth and where your normal saliva glands are. But you also have saliva glands in your lungs, and about 1% of the time of this cancer, it it shows in the lungs. And so mine started in my right lung. Um, and so I had a bunch of consultations. Um, I had a doctor who told me that he wouldn't touch my surgery. He's not going to do it. It's too risky. So my cancer was, so you have your main bronchial tube going down, and then it branches off into two, and that Y is called the mediastinum. And my tumor was right on that mediastinum. And normally your bronchial tube is about the size of a quarter. My right tube was the size of a toothpick, and so I'm breathing through a toothpick on the right side, and I had a very audible wheeze to it that was really horrible. Um, but it was right on the Y. And so the first doctor said, I won't touch it. It's too dangerous. I'm not comfortable doing it. Um, and then I went and saw a pulmonologist, and he said, hey, go see this other doctor. He's kind of a miracle worker. He takes all the cases that this hospital doesn't want to touch. And he was kind of the perfect balance of confidence and cocky, like minor God complex, which was, I really actually appreciated. Because he also didn't bullshit around anything. He just kind of, he laid it out flat, no beating around the bush. He said, this is what's going to happen. This is what you're going to do. Um, and so what they did is, he said, we're going to do a total pneumonectomy, which is taking my whole right lung and removing it. And he said, we can't do a transplant. Cancer patients aren't usually uh, able to do transplants just because of the chance of the cancer coming back. It's a rough term for it, but it's kind of a waste of an organ if the cancer comes back and ruins that donated organ, especially because someone has to die for you to get lungs. But yeah, he went in and he he said I can do it. I did a pneumonectomy like 3 weeks ago, so we'll get you on the schedule. And from the X-ray that I had in December, I had my surgery in March. It went pretty fast, and he said, we'll get you on the schedule, we'll get going. And I think I worked the day before surgery, and then went in and had it removed. I was 5.5 hours on the table, and then 8 days in the hospital recovering. Um, and that was a rough time in the hospital. It's probably the darkest I've ever been in my life. Uh, I had to learn how to talk and how to breathe and how to cough, how to do kind of everything again. But I was going into surgery. I was pretty, what's the word when, like, ignorant. I went in kind of ignorant of what was going to happen. I was like, all right, he's going to take it. We're going to come out. I'm going to be fine. Like, I didn't feel jittery. I didn't feel too nervous. On the other hand, my wife was all of those things. Um, I felt really good. Like I said, the doctor was cocky and confident. Um, it didn't hit me until after surgery and after the hospital that I almost died. Like, I came very close to almost dying, and it put me in some pretty rough spots. I don't know if that answered your question, but that's kind of all over the place.
No, I mean, that's I wanted to talk about treatment, and I guess surgery is part of that treatment. Going through
Yeah.
having the surgery, getting the lung taken out,
And
and
so
then
with
even after that, you still had to have treatment. So if you could
right,
talk about that, and then going through cancer treatments, does it get to the point? Did you ever have a moment where it's just
So if you don't
too
mind me
much?
interrupting,
yeah,
before we get to the treatment part, I'd like to know a little bit more details on. You say you were in a very dark place, dark moments. I know
yes,
darkness to me probably means entirely different than darkness to you, and I'm kind of
right,
wondering if you don't mind expanding on.
yeah. So darkness, like getting to like the lowest point in your life. A lot of people, like, mine was never suicide. I never got to a point where I could end it. Um, I did have moments of like, would it be better? And immediately it's like, no, you have kids, you have a wife, you have family, you have friends that depend on you. Um, I am blessed with a very tight knit community and group around me. Very close to all my family and have good relationships with everybody. Um, the darkness in the hospital was, and the best way I think is my wife explained it is before surgery, I was like really happy and go lightly and jokes and smiles 24/7. I didn't smile once in the 8 days in the hospital. Um, I felt like trash. I mean, I just got out of surgery and had a lung removed, but I I didn't eat in the hospital at all. Uh, a lung only weighs about a pound and a half, and I lost, I think, 40 pounds within the month after surgery. Um, uh, just very depressed, a very bleak outlook on life about I'm not going to be able to be the same man I was. Um, I didn't want to do anything. Like, I brought video games to the hospital just to try and pass the time. I didn't touch it one time. I didn't want to do anything. I just absolutely, I did not want to be in that moment. So it's hard to describe like what my darkness was. And that's one of the things I'm working through with my therapist and trying to get better and confront the fears and thoughts that I had in the hospital. So
So are a lot of those same thoughts and fears still there?
Only a little bit. Uh, as I've healed and gotten more active and moving, I've learned my life isn't hindered too much with just one lung. I still work as a journeyman electrician. Um, I hung a 200-pound panel on yesterday, me and another guy, and so physically, I'm not hindered too bad by having the one lung.
Think you'll ever get a second lung put back in you?
Technology would have to go pretty far. But I can push myself and go, and I can have almost full lung capacity with just the one. So what they've found is when you have a lung removed, your remaining lung expands and your capacity gets pretty close to normal. I still get really winded after a couple flights of stairs and have to take a break. Hunting and hiking and fishing is a little harder, but not impossible. So, yeah.
So, maybe we'll fast forward timeline just a little bit, but currently cancer free.
Currently
Right.
cancer free. So I'm not in remission. What it's called is, what is it, NSD, no sign of disease. And so they have no sign of cancer in my body right now. And so with that diagnosis of, hey, you have an incurable cancer that can't be done. My type of cancer, when you remove it, it comes back locally in the spot that it started. Well, they took that whole thing. They took the lung, they took it out, and so there's very little chance that it can come back. I'm still doing scans all the time. I'm still doing checkups and tests and whatnot, but I'm cancer free.
Oh, that's incredible. It's
Thank you.
how I don't want to just gloss over that and how it might have, changed your mental state. I know you're still working through some things, some lingering thoughts, but
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, like we talked about earlier, what we thought toughness was versus how you would define toughness now.
Defining toughness now, after surgery, after treatment. The outlook's still very similar, but I have been put in a position that I've grown to appreciate people's mental health and hard times, and every single one is different. Like, my situation is no harder or different than like Jake's an Army veteran. He's seen some crazy things and worked through a lot. What I went through is no worse. What his was no worse than mine. It's different. And any person who can go through hard times and push through, even if like they have to white knuckle, even if they have to break down, whatever it is, those guys are incredibly strong and have my absolute respect, because I know where I've had my lows were really hard and really trying, and the guys that make it out okay have my utmost respect. And I also have incredible respect for the guys that don't make it out. Like there's a lot of people that go through these hard times and say, I'm done, and they either check out mentally and just kind of disappear, or they kind of unalive themselves. And those guys, I greatly feel for them and their families, because like although I never really thought about suicide as an option, I could see how easy it would be to just say I'm not going to put up with it anymore. I'm not gonna. I don't have the energy to fight. I've been doing this for so long. I'm done. And I feel for all of them. And I don't find that one person's problems is harder than other. They're all tough in my mind now.
There's no right answer. There's no
Right.
just this is what you do, so you don't get to that point. And so,
But there's absolutely help out there. Like,
and your story is a resiliency story,
yeah.
And that's what Ironhide's all about. That's why I love that you are a part of it, and why you're helping to build it. Because if anyone understands resilience, it's you. And
Well, I can see how hard it is to give up, and I want to be able to reach out and say, hey, you don't have to do this alone. You don't have to fight the feelings alone. And that's, I was blessed with a great community that I knew I was never alone. Chris, you were there for me a ton. Jake came in after surgery and treatment, and he's been a big help. My wife and family and my church and everything has been there for me, and I want to be there for my brothers and sisters.
so, there's a lot of people going through similar things. Might not be cancer, but they're going through things. Luckily, you have a lot of support, and
Oh yeah,
there's as tradesmen, especially as just people. Sometimes we don't have that support system.
no, and I see it all the time where people are going through hard times, but hey, you have a deadline to make. We need to hit this phase of the project by end of week, and so you can't deal with your problems right now. You got to put it later. I'm blessed to work for a company that does reach out and does help. And I know a lot of times the tradesmen they're hard asses, but I know that on every crew there's people that care. They may not show it because they're in stress, they're in dealing with pushy project managers or pushy general contractors, but there is so many people out there that care for the blue collar people, the human beings. So
Being a representative of Ironhide,
mm-hmm.
From Ironhide's standpoint, what do you want those guys to know that don't have that obvious support system? You touched on it a little bit, but
I want them to know that there's a community out there that of like-minded people that care for each and every person. Um, every person comes from a different background, a different walk of life, and there's people out there that absolutely care about you. Reach out, and there's Facebook groups, Instagram pages, all sort of help out there, and the first, not the first, but the best way is just find a community and talk, just chat, and just be friends. Um, and if you are in dire need, there's resources out there for us. There's programs that are construction worker related and centered. Um, and then there's also like national hotlines, 988. If you need help, call. Um, but yeah, there's people out there that care about you, that want to hear your story. Um,
Like us.
like us, absolutely. Ironhide. We, I have been there for guys on my crew at 3 a.m. when they're having a really crappy day and they need just a chat, um, or Sundays, Saturdays, whatever. They're going through something hard, um, and I've put deadlines back just to chat with people about what their lives are and how they're doing. And in the long run, it didn't affect the job. It didn't affect our bottom line budget wise. And the job doesn't matter so much that people have to suffer.
The most valuable thing in our industry is the people.
Mm-hmm.
And so taking care of ourselves, taking care of those around us, um, is way more important than any deadline. And we get barked at, and we know the job has to get done. There's other moving parts that don't necessarily involve us, but without us, it doesn't get done.
Yeah, there's a huge pressure on us to push, um, and work ourselves to the bones. Like I felt a push to get back to the job site after sitting at home. I was
Probably just by you.
by me. No one told me that I had to
Yeah.
be back by a date.
Right.
No one said, "Hey, we need you here." I was back in the field 3 months after having a lung removed, and honestly, it was earlier than it should have been. I should have taken more time, but I felt the pressure of job sites aren't going to get done if I'm not there. Absolutely, they will. You'll be fine. If you have to take a mental health day, if you have to take something, take your time, go find people.
Well, and Ironhide is here specifically
We understand.
for this industry and for these men specifically.
Everyone in Ironhide has their own problems with mental health. We understand both the mental health side and the push of the job site, the push of the work. Chris, you and I are both foremen and understand better than most what has to happen to get a job done. But it's not going to get done if our guys aren't present.
The stresses aren't going to go away. That's just how sobering that is. I don't know. To some people already know that the stresses aren't going to. What we do for a living is important and it's stressful, and it's not going to stop, because if it stops, everything stops. And so through Ironhide, we're developing tools to help deal with those and
Mm-hmm.
embrace being a man, including our book, The War for Men. I know, Mitch, you've read it quite a bit. I'm just curious
Yeah.
how you can, at least, how someone in our situation going through what we go through on a daily basis, what they could get out of it.
Yeah. So the War for Men was it. Chris, you did pretty much all the work in the book, and I in reading it and studying it and going through it, there's something in there for everybody, even if you're not struggling, um, even if you don't see yourself having mental health problems. It it teaches how to be a better leader, how to be a better man, a person, a friend. Um, and I love it. Like the title's really aggressive, but that's because that's how much it means, is that we have to push and fight and work for ourselves, for others. Um, yeah, there's so many chapters that spoke to me specifically, and I've taken everything. I've taken something from every portion and every bit of this book.
Oh, Jake, you got any questions?
No, these are lit. Good job.
Uh,
If you could choose one chapter in particular, which one do you think is most important to you?
I can't remember off the top of my head what chapter it is, but there's a section that talks about comparing yourselves to others. Um, and I do this a ton of like, hey, this person's doing more than I am. I'm not doing enough, and I get that feeling of I'm worthless. I'm not putting forth the effort that these other people are, and so I'm not as important. And the book teaches and talks about you absolutely are beneficial and helping the work going forward. I know starting on early on, I had a little bit of the opposite in my career, of the feeling of like, hey, I'm working so stinking hard, and my project manager just sits in an office and does nothing. He's pointless. What's the point? He gets paid way more than me. And now that I've started to flip towards the other side, well, the other side, but into a project manager role and just a management role, those guys are doing so much to keep the job going. They may not be doing the physical work, but they're providing you the path to do the work smoothly. And
that
so
yeah, that's huge.
there's different ways to view yourself versus others. And a lot of times I judge other people's A days versus my B days. And so their best days versus my worst days. And I say, hey, look at him. He's doing amazing. He's so happy. And I feel like trash. Okay, but tomorrow he might not. And I might.
We compare ourselves so much to everybody around us, and as
Right.
men, I think as men, we feel like our value is directly tied to how useful we are.
Right. And we have to
And
compete.
and because I know exactly what you're talking about, where you're in the field and you see this guy, he's not picking up a tool, so he's not working as hard as me. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I've made that switch into superintendent roles, foreman roles, and it was hard for me to make that switch, because even though I was stressed out doing all these things and trying to make it so everybody has something to do, you do feel like you're not working as hard as they are, because
Mm-hmm.
they're sweating and they're sweating because they're moving.
And you're sitting in an AC truck.
Not
Some
all the
days.
time. But It's
Hey,
quiet in there for
but
meetings.
when you work your butt off, it comes with benefits.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I've had days where I'm just making up a panel, and then I see a guy who's pulled, you know, 2,000 feet of wire, and all I did was make up a couple panels. I stayed within a 10 by 8 room, and he's walked 4 miles.
At the end of the day, though, most of these guys, and I know I did too. It's you have those moments of look at this guy not doing anything. But the joke I play with me and my guys is, if they're working hard, I'll take the iPad out and be like, "You want to trade?"
Mm-hmm.
And they'll say, "No way, I'm not going to do that."
You want to go to that morning meeting?
So
Nope.
it's the grass is always greener, and that's the fault in comparing ourselves to others, comparing our usefulness to others, and seeing, well, that guy's fitter than me, or that guy can do this, or that guy has two lungs.
Yeah, those
It's
guys are mean and they're aggressive, and I don't like them
yeah,
because they have what I don't.
it's that's why it's so important to
Yeah.
feel confident about what you are able to do, because that's
Mm-hmm.
all you're able to do is what you can do, and if you want to change that,
Well,
if you
and
want to get better, then
especially right now, like after all is said and done, I still have my rough days health wise. Um, like I get a lot more affected when I get a cold.
mm-hmm.
I may not get like super bad, but I get congested in my chest, and it stays for months. Um, and bringing that stuff up, all that gunk, is really hard on me, and I'll go and puke at the job site because I'm coughing so much trying to get all that nastiness out. And I have days where I tell my guys, you know, I need you to do a little more today. I'm not gonna be here physically as much as I can, which in my role is nice because I have a lot of paperwork I can do. I can go study plans and prints and still be productive and effective towards the job. Those days are fewer and fewer as I push myself and exercise my lung and get back into being fit. But
But even for the guys that can't do that, for the guys that can't go sit down and read
right,
plans for the rest of the day, it's one of these things that I talk to my guys about. What's funny is the guys that seem like they're the most apologetic about being late or missing a day. Those are the guys who are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing 99% of the time.
right.
And
Those are the guys that call when they're 2 minutes late.
yeah, those are the guys that get.
We don't
they,
care.
They care. No.
We don't care if you're 2 minutes late.
And so if you are someone that, you know, hard work pays off in way more ways than I think people realize. And if you're having a bad day and you don't have the
Capacity
or the
to do your job.
to do that, but you're someone that is there and shows up for other people, no one's gonna mind helping pick
Right.
up your slack.
A lot of our jobs, you earn PTO days, and when you can prove on the job site that you're worth being there and that you put forth an effort when you have the capacity to do so, in my eyes, you've earned, you know, a break. You've earned time to sit down, take a rest, take a breather. And whether if that is like, okay, I'm gonna stay home today and need a break, most guys understand. There's always the guys out there that are grumpy and grouchy that will yell at you, but
It's a great
Ironhide understands.
It's 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 just a switch. We have to tell ourselves that it's okay to start thinking about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Pick up one of these books and start reading, and it's mental health doesn't have to be for whatever stereotype you come up with in your mind. It's for everybody, and it's for you. And
And Ironhide pushes that because we live it also, but you have to deal with your mental health and balance a family and balance a job and balance everything. So it that's what it is you have to balance and prioritize things. And like I have a really crappy day at work and it gets me super down and really stressed and I've missed deadlines. I still have to go home and take care of my family and help my wife. And sometimes when my wife is struggling, I have to go home and I have to do the dishes, which I'm never opposed to doing. But there's a lot on men's plates that oftentimes are looked over. And adding mental health problems on top of that is icing on the cake. And it's hard.
My personal favorite thing is communication. That's something that I'm always trying to work out. And like communicating with my wife if I'm having a long day, if I'm struggling with PTSD issues, if I just kind of woke up on the wrong side of the bed, just anything. Because it's like we try and structure our meal plans throughout the week, but when we both have long days and we just look at each other, we're like, I ain't fucking making dinner. Not a chance.
Yep.
And so like, all right, well, we're just gonna go grab Panda then.
Mm-hmm.
Some weeks it happens way more than it should, and other weeks we do really well. But I think but having that communication with each other to make sure like we know what the other person's going through, like that's always been something that I strive for, is my best at communication. And it's same thing like in the military with my soldiers, right? They have to communicate with them when what needs to be done. And I even struggle sometimes. I have a bad day and I'm like, look, I'm not going to be a good leader today. I'm struggling today. So I just need you guys to pick up your shit and do what's right.
Mm-hmm.
And they always do. They always end up doing the right thing because they leave me alone.
And that's a big deal. That's something I struggle with a lot. Especially after surgery, like just to communicate with my wife. And I'm blessed with a wife that understands and pulls it out of me. And I hate it every single time. I hate the conversations where she says, hey, you're off and it's been a few days and what's up? Because I can deal with it myself, right? Like that's the thought I have, is this is my problem. I can deal with it. I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to push it off on someone else. I can take care of it, and I can take care of you and my family, and I can do it all. I have to be Superman. But my wife pulls it out, and every stinking single time I feel better. And she's very beneficial, and there's people out there that will do that for us. And it's uncomfortable and it sucks.
You can't be Superman if nobody believes in Superman.
Right.
And when
You're just a bird or a plane.
When I say that, yeah, it's people have to know. People have to be aware of you. That's huge. And like Jake, when you tell your guys, I'm off today, or if you can get to that point where you're communicating with your guys, with the people around you, your friends, or your wife especially, I'm not doing good right now.
No, don't get me wrong, Chris. It took me years of psychology and therapy work with people to teach me how to get to that point.
Yeah, but it's huge. It's. I mean, I've been able to do that with my guys. Or if there's a stressful day, if there's a crane day, and we're craning in these 10,000-pound air handlers, or we're doing this with really high stress, people could get really hurt. I warn people in the beginning of the day, hey, I'm going to be a dick today.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get yelled at. This is what's happening. But it's because I'm trying to, I don't have time to say, hey guys, hey, don't get in that pinch point. Hey, don't loosen that shackle just yet. We have to communicate fast and loud, and
it's dangerous. It's expensive. You have one shot.
And
It's
so
stress.
it's all about setting those expectations and these are not overnight things you just pull out of thin air. It takes a long time to figure out how to do them, yeah. But you can do that with your wife. You can do that with your family. And I know for me, it's easy just to try to hold it in so that I don't have to put my burden on her. But
Mm-hmm.
I find if I communicate with my wife, and she'll do what she can, and she always does to help me. But the fact that I know that she knows that I'm going through something actually makes me want to do something about it, because I don't want my wife to be concerned about me. I don't want to. So I don't think any of us want that to happen. So our go-to is, okay, I'm just not going to tell her anything then.
Right.
But they can't help us if they don't know what's going on, and we can't help ourselves unless we have someone to help keep us accountable like that. Hey, I'm really heated today. Okay, now I just told my wife I'm heated today, so I gotta calm down. And I wouldn't do that if I didn't tell her. I would just keep it in.
Well, doing that whole superhero manly man, Chris, I know we've talked about it a lot, and Chris and I started therapy relatively
Same time.
at the same time, and not too long ago. But I know for me, my wife had to push and push and push and push, and I always knew it's beneficial. I always push therapy for my guys and say, hey, just go chat, just talk. You know, most insurances, they'll cover it for free, especially if it's telehealth and whatnot. But then when I looked at it at myself, I'm fine. I'll push it for my guys and I'll preach it, but I'll be the biggest hypocrite in the world, and I'm fine. I can deal with my problems. Until my wife finally was, nope, you have to go. You have to go talk, and you have to go chat with a person, even if it's just, hey, what's up? This is my week. I'm having a good week. I'm having a bad week. Here's the things I like. And you just chat and make a friend. Therapy is very beneficial for everybody. And Chris, I'm sure it's the same thing, or your wife pushed you. And I know we've had the conversation of, I like therapy, but not for me.
Well, it's been, what was weighing on my mind the most was building Ironhide, but not
Living
practice
Ironhide.
what I'm preaching, and obviously not everybody is in the spot where they need therapy, but I am. I was and I am, and you know, I was like to point the finger, hey, you should do this, you should do this. I'm good, I'm fine, I can handle myself. I've been, my entire life is full of events and rough years where I've had to really take on a lot and be big brother and be oldest son and be there for everybody else. And while we've been building this, Ironhide's been huge just for me personally, and uh, I'm trying to create it for other people. And while we're doing this, it's whenever we are doing something with Ironhide, it's like this little gnawing thing in my mind that I need to be doing these things as well. And so therapy has already helped me tremendously just realize that I have a lot to talk about. And therapy, they don't tell you what to do. They don't, they give you an opportunity to speak, to get it out, to talk about it. And whether or not you do therapy, it's extremely beneficial for everybody, but it's just getting that opportunity to speak. So creating that on the job site, you don't have to bring your problems on the job site, break everybody down, and have a whole thing like that. But just throughout the day, you get people that you're close with, you get people that you're talking around all the time. Just bring up bring up a small struggle, and you'll realize that you're not alone. You'll realize that
Oh.
everyone is going through this.
The best therapy sessions I've had have just been sitting on buckets, wiring up outlets next to some guys for hours.
Makes a huge difference.
And we're just
and theirs.
We're just complaining about our lives and how our lives suck. And then another person will say, hey, well, this is what I do. And this is how I cope with this, or this is how I overcame this, or whatever. Like, that's what I love about the trades too, is that it doesn't pull one person from a specific type of background. Is every single guy on my crew is different. And they have vastly wild and vastly different experiences in their lives. And I can benefit from every single person.
I mean, people think blue collar men, especially, just don't talk. People in the trades, people in the military, that we're just very stereotypical. We just don't talk. We just do our work. But we all know that's
not true.
That's BS.
We talk to each other.
If you give us, if you have an opportunity to start talking, we won't shut up. You know.
Oh yeah.
Diarrhea of the mouth.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it's complaining about our boss.
Yeah.
But that's because it's a shared trauma.
I always assume my guys are complaining about me, and that's fine.
Oh, absolutely. I've seen myself written on Porta-Johns. Okay. I know that message is about me. So.
But we're here. We got your back. Got your back, Mitch. We have your back. Anybody watching or listening. We're building Ironhide for you because we need it for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But thanks, man. I appreciate you
Thank you.
Being willing to be the focus of this.
I'm glad to be a part of this.
You're a good guy.
I hope we can help as many people as we can.